What's going on YouTube? Today we're doing an everything I eat in a day bulking edition. So I'm trying to put on weight at the moment. Myself and Ojin, my business partner, are dropping a nutrition course, and him and I are both testing different systems in there. I'm testing the bulking systems, he's testing the cutting systems. So at the moment, I have put on 3 pounds over the last month. I'm up to about 182 pounds and I'm eating about 50 calories a day. So the first thing I put in my body every day before I eat or consume any form of food is 16 ounces of water, some pink Himalayan sea salt mixed in, and then half a lemon. So I'm gonna be honest with you guys, bulking for me is not easy. It's not easy for me to do mentally and physically. Like, I am not keen to eating a lot of food. So for some days, 3,500 calories does feel easy, but for most of them, it's tough. And like, I have to physically alter my eating patterns to make sure I'm getting in enough calories. Now, what I will say is that I usually sit around like 178 pounds, and at that weight, I'm very lean and I feel very athletic, and I weigh that very heavily, and that's why I kind of stay around there. But one of my goals this year is to deadlift 600 pounds. I'm sure you guys will see the progress throughout my YouTube channel, but I'm tracking my progress for strength throughout this bulk. My goal is to get up to about 188, 190-ish in the next 3 months. And we're using a bunch of the systems used in Pheasyquye Lab, so I'm making sure that everything is tested when it comes to implementing these strategies for other folks. So if you are like myself and you do struggle to put on weight at times or just consume a ton of calories to make you put on weight, then hopefully this video can help share some insight into different strategies that you can use when trying to add weight and bulking. What's it called? ASMR? This is for all of the ASMR freaks. All right guys, so first strategy for myself when bulking is eating earlier. So normally I like to push my eating back a little bit in the day, like 10 to 11 a.m., depending on when I consume my coffee and how much work I have to get done and so forth. But something with bulking that I have to make sure I do is I have to make sure I eat first thing in the morning after I drink my water, because otherwise it's tough for me to get a lot of those 3,500 calories in within a shorter time frame. So this basically elongates my timeline. For breakfast, I have 3 eggs, 2 egg whites, some broccoli, some turkey, some cheddar and Kobe Jack cheese, a clementine, and then a toasted sandwich thin. And that comes out to about 46 grams of protein, 26 grams of fat, and 47 grams of carbs, with a total of like 620-ish calories. Smaller-ish breakfast, yes. I could have probably done a better job of getting something more calorically dense, but we are gonna go work out and do like a hike in another hour and a half, so I don't wanna be too full. But this is helping me, I think, get more calories in throughout the day at an earlier rate. Plus, honestly, I've really been enjoying having breakfast. And if you watch my other What I Eat in a Day videos, my breakfasts are always very similar, and this is for a reason, and I've talked about this before, but I like to build in staple meals with foods and different tastes that I can enjoy for multiple days on end, because that way I know exactly what I'm getting, I know exactly how I'm going to feel after I eat this meal, and it helps me mentally prep for the rest of my day of eating and activity. So if I'm going to work out soon, I know exactly how this is going to make me feel, and I know exactly what to expect after consuming it. Plus, I have a better idea of timelines with digestion and so forth. So something that I will say for people who are bulking and have trouble getting in their calories during the day, try eating earlier in the day, and also try finding staple meals. I think I do need to actually increase the caloric intake of the staple meal. One way I could do that is by adding some peanut butter on this toast, or even by adding in like an extra egg and so forth, or even doing more carbs. Maybe doing 2 sandwich thins, that could be a viable option, but that is something I'm gonna have to keep reworking and figuring out as I go, because remember, once we are on a goal set path, we have to continually adapt and pivot as we go. So something that I'm gonna keep doing and altering is my strategy of meal timing, especially with breakfast and eating earlier, but also adding in more food in there, so I don't have to worry about when I get to like 8 p.m. and I'm like, fuck, I still have 1,000 calories to eat. I wanna be at that point with literally almost none, if anything. So I'm gonna enjoy this breakfast, and I'll see you guys in a minute. You guys need to see this. Check this out. not a pain you're adding to it. Just came up a steep incline where we had to scramble the last like 1/10 of a mile, I believe. 2 miles up, and this view is just incredible. How do you feel?
Good.
How is this hike?
Intensity level, probably like, of the ones we've done so far, probably the hardest.
Really?
You don't think? I don't know.
Yeah, no, it was tough.
I think it was the most like physically exerting.
Yeah.
Even though it was shorter.
Especially with like the last scramble.
Really?
It's
I
like,
thought the beginning was the hardest
really?
part.
Oh
Because
man.
especially we're going like 10 miles an hour.
True, we were going way too fast.
Racing up.
Walking like New Yorkers on this Colorado mountain. All right, so we just climbed up about 2 miles, scrambled again for like the last 10th. So some things to keep in mind on days like this. So again, I'm gaining, right? So I'm eating 3,500 calories a day. On days like this, they're kind of like an anomaly because I'm also working out later this evening, and I just did this huge exertion now. We still have to make our way back down. So some strategies that you can put into place, and this goes for people who are dieting too, are to be a little bit more adaptive with your caloric intake. So today I know I'm expending a lot more energy than what I would normally do. So what am I gonna do to account for that? I'm gonna uptick my calories about 200, 250 to 300 calories. And that is just to ensure that I'm getting enough, but also I'm gonna be a lot more mindful of the meal I eat after this. So when we talk about meal timing, I don't want to say a majority of cases, but just in our day-to-day, meal timing isn't always the most relevant when it comes to like muscle protein synthesis, performance, and so forth. But on days like this, where you are calculating the timing of different training sessions, or if you're doing 2-a-days, then meal timing matters a bit more. So after this hike, when we get back down and I get my first meal in me, it's going to be very protein heavy and very carb heavy. Why? That's going to help start to stimulate some recovery from this hike and all the exertion we did, but also uptick muscle protein synthesis a bit. So that way when we head into our workout later, where we're going to be once again physically exerting a lot of energy, we're going to have recovery stores and like energy stores to tap into, and we're already going to be digesting a bunch of what we've consumed and using that throughout that workout and kind of elongating that. So on the topic of gaining, I'm going to uptick my calories a little bit, and anybody who's in a similar gaining phase and you have like anomaly days like this where you are doing a 2-a-day, for example, similar like this, and you're not used to doing this much activity, it can be useful to scale and adapt your calories accordingly. Similar for people who are dieting, if you were dieting and you did this and you're going to work out, that's a lot more energy you're expending on not having a bigger intake. So if you are in a caloric deficit, on days like this, it might actually be worth upticking your calories a little bit. And that's just to ensure you don't run yourself into a hole into the ground. But obviously we have to think about all the contextual differences that come into our lifestyle, where we're at, what our deficit, what our surplus amount is, and how long we've been doing it and so forth, plus how we're feeling in the moment. But those are kind of some thoughts there, but hopefully you guys enjoy this view. I'm glad I got to bring you along. Also, if you are interested more on meal timing and how to use meal timing for your advantage for workouts and sessions and 2-a-days, we talk about that a lot in Pheasyquye Lab course, our nutrition course for that matter. So I will link down below the newsletter that you could sign up for, and you'll get some exclusive discount codes and so forth by signing up. The course should be live in a couple weeks, but we talk about meal timing when dieting and gaining and how to structure it accordingly to optimize your performance. All right, so wrapped up hike, went to a gas station nearby. Strawberry chobani yogurt, Met RX, and then I have a Body Armor Hydrate. There's a lot of sugar in this. Normally I wouldn't drink it, but the goal right now is to get in some fast acting carbs and some protein source, because we're gonna go home and then we're gonna cook a meal. That meal will be lower in sugar content, but still high in protein and carbs. And then we're gonna train at what, like 2.5 hours from now, probably 3 hours. So just enough time to digest and get the dogs out. But yeah, that's what we're gonna eat right now post hike.
Wait, can we talk about something real quick? What is this called?
Chobani. Thank you. Chobani. Wait, is that it? Not it? Chobani.
I'm gonna leave it open-ended. We'll see what your subscribers say.
They're gonna say I'm an idiot, probably. All right, so we're training in about an hour. We have our pre-gym meal. We're finally home settled. We got these guys out and about, and we are going with some leftover mac and cheese. This is Bonza mac and cheese from the other night, and then 2 cauliflower breaded chicken tenders. Whew, they are good. If you've never tried them, what are they, cauliflower? Cauliflower. Cauliflower. They're good. But yeah, I'll see you guys at the gym. I lied. Before we go to the gym, I do want to show you what I've been taking pre-workout. I am taking Buff Chick Supplements Buff Pump, sour lemon flavor. Whew, it is good, and the pumps are fantastic. The beta alanine in it is, whew, it's a lot. It's so much. Megan Ryan, super good friends of mine, make squats for that matter. They launched Buff Chick Supplements as a brand to empower women and to focus on showing that strength is great, and they're not trying to manipulate how we think about ourselves physically by marketing. So a lot of supplement companies go down that road of making you feel like you need to be bigger or more cut or more beautiful, quote unquote, and that's just bullshit marketing. And they stand for something great. They make good stuff. So shameless plug to them. Check them out. Buff Chick Supplements. I'm gonna link them down in the description below. Their pre-workout is fantastic, and so is their pump product. All right, so we just wrapped up our workout. I didn't want to talk a lot during this workout, honestly. I got here, it was like one of those 45-minute to an hour sessions where it was like, I'm already kind of tired, I really want dinner, and it was more like just get your head down and work. So I did not film too much and talk through this. Yeah, it was a deadlift workout with some conditioning with sandbag and also some RDLs and chest supported dumbbell row work. So I'm feeling pretty cooked and I'm stoked for dinner. Just got back from the gym. I am smoked, and I came home to this beautiful pizza prepared by Nikki. So boom, pizza right here. We have a Bonza crust, which is phenomenal. If you've never tried it, I'm telling you, you gotta try the Bonza crust. It's like an orange container, freezer section. We have 2 servings of 93% ground beef, correct?
93%?
Yeah, 93%. And then we have some Daya mozzarella and then some of my Kobe Jack. Cheddar?
He didn't have that much cheese left, so I had to give my awful vegan cheese on his pizza.
Which isn't that terrible. And then we have some Rouse marinara sauce. All in all, this is about like 1,000-ish calories. I am gonna slam this really fast because I am so hungry that I don't really feel like talking to the camera right now. And I'll see you guys after I eat this beautiful pizza.
It does look like a taco.
It's like a big taco. All right, so update, the taco idea didn't work. My pizza's now in shambles and just a bunch of pieces. I'm now essentially scooping the toppings onto the pizza, folding it like a fucking, I don't even know what you would consider this, but eating it as so.
This is what it's supposed to look like.
You told me this would happen.
Yeah, you don't listen to me.
I know, famous last words. All right, so I ate that entirely too fast, but that's okay. I'm just gonna lie supine for a little bit in the tub and do a nice little recovery bath. So a couple things I wanna touch on, because I talked earlier in this video that I wanna share some tips with bulking, is number 1, when deciding your surplus, we have to be very mindful of how multifactorial a surplus can actually be and apply to our lives, and kind of where we're at with our training, how long we've been training, where our normal weight and body fat sit around, and so forth. So generally you'll see 3 different surpluses, and all of this is discussed in Pheasyquye Lab's Nutrition Course. So if you do want to learn more, I highly suggest checking it out when it goes live. But basically we have a small, a moderate, and a larger surplus. The small is usually like 200 to 300, moderate's like 300 to 400, and then a bigger surplus is like about 500 plus. Now, why is there such a big variance there? Well, when we consider that different folks start from different points with their training and their body fat levels and their body weight levels, it's pretty easy to see where everybody will fit into these different buckets. So for me personally, I sit around like 179 pounds all year round. I'm around like 10 to 12% body fat, which is fairly low for being a natural athlete all year round. So for me, a larger surplus I can get away with because I have built this accruement of years of training at being this lean. So a surplus generally isn't gonna lead to a lot of immediate fat gain. Now, let's say you're on the other end of the spectrum where it's like, okay, I just dieted down from a heavier body fat, body weight. What kind of surplus should I use? You should probably start with a smaller surplus and start acclimating your body in to eating a little bit more of a caloric intake versus starting with a larger surplus, because once again, you came from a point where you were higher body fat, body weight, and more than likely your set point is a bit higher. Now, set point theory is a whole nother topic, which again we cover in Pheasyquye Lab's course, but I'm not gonna dive too much into it. But basically, it's all of the systems that regulate where our body fat and body weight like to sit at most. And pretty much it's where our body would consider equilibria on our daily basis. So everything we choose from eating, consuming, and so forth is modified by all of these different systems. And set point basically says that, hey, our bodies all have this homeostasis, equilibrium that they like to sit at. So working away from that can be pretty strugglesome for some, whether it's a dieting phase or a gaining phase and so forth. Our bodies naturally want to stay what feels most comfortable when it comes to the equilibrium. Another tip with surpluses and gaining especially, so there are a bunch of different levels of surpluses, so small, moderate, large. The other tip I want to talk about is, once again, modifying your meal structure accordingly and being a bit more adaptive with your diet. So I think far too often with different gaining and dieting phases, we can be very rigid, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but what ends up happening is we end up getting into these habitual mindsets where we have to do something a certain way to make it this way and so forth and so forth. So then we feel very structured, and when we don't follow that structure, we fall off or just feel a little bit more stressed. And now obviously this is again very contextual and case-by-case basis, but the idea of being adaptive is, like today, knowing that I'm doing a 2-a-day, adding in a little bit of an extra caloric intake to compensate for the extra energy expenditure, adding breakfast earlier in the day so I can get more food in throughout the day and so forth. These are all different things that we need to remain cognizant of as we go through dieting and gaining phases. The two tips I want to draw out are, number one, be mindful of your surplus amount and account for the multifactorial point that is you as a human and you as an athlete, lifter, etc. Don't fall into the trap of thinking, oh, I need to eat 500 calories a day because that's 3,500 calories a week and that's going to be a pound. Like, do not fall into that one style fits all way of eating. We need to be very mindful of how complex all of this shit really is. The second tip is to be adaptive and be cognizant of where you're at and where you're going, and being realistic with a little bit of your expectations, but also the decisions you're making on a daily basis. If you fall off, if you don't follow the perfect rigid plan that is structured for you, it's okay. Diets are very complex and they should not be treated as such a black and white topic. So telling you the Pheasyquye Lab Nutrition Course is going to have a lot of this information in it, and it goes super in depth. Plus we give you a lot of really useful tools and calculators to find your ideal macro spread based on the surplus and dieting phase you want to use. So you can pull all these numbers, but I'm going to go take a bath, work on a little bit of breathing work, read Dr. Pat Davidson's new book, and then I will see you guys in a little bit. I said earlier that I only have 500 calories left. I don't. I have like 700, 750 because I am adding in those 200, 250 calories. So I have about 750 calories left for the rest of the day. I'll see you guys when I have my final meal. All right, guys, final meal of the day. 3 rice cakes. These are honey nut, I believe. 3 Vans waffles, the protein versions, and then some crispy dark chocolate with, what is it, 55% cacao, I think. Calories for the day, 3776. This is a lot of food, and I'm feeling the fullness already. Macro breakdown: 429 grams of carbs, 141 grams of fat. Fat content was a little high today. That would probably help with my fullness if I brought that down a little bit. So normally I'm around like 110, 120, 141 is a little bit high for me. And then protein, 213 grams. Whew, what a day. Busy day of eating and activity. But guys, if you have any questions on this video, bulking strategies and so forth, drop them down below in the comments. And as always, like the video, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys in the next one. We are going to watch a movie. Do you know what movie we're watching yet?
Moana.
We're not watching Moana. See ya.